Let's go.
Hey, we just started. We're back on.
All right, so welcome to episode 4 of Mythical Monster Investigations, where we're going to be looking over witches and witchcraft, which, oy vey, this is going to be fun. Okay, so two small disclaimers. First of all, there is a lot to cover. Like, holy crap, there's a lot to cover, so this is going to be broken up into two parts, hopefully only two. So this is going to be part 1. And second of all, is that we are going to be looking specifically at the monster version of the witch. Now, the witch is not specifically really a monster, but in mainstream Hollywood and in public minds, it is given the same animosity as most monsters. So we're going to be looking specifically at the myths that created the monstrous evil version of the witch. That's a disclaimer to the witch community out there. And of course, if you want any further information about this or can't wait for the second episode, you can always look up this and more historical information in the book Probable, Possible, Plausible, an Explanatory Guide to Monsters on Myth on Amazon.
Always linked in the description of both the YouTube video and the Spotify.
Yes, and like I said, there is a crap ton to get through, so let's dive right in. A witch is basically described as an individual who's credited with malignant supernatural powers. It's usually a woman practicing black magic with the aid of the devil or some other malevolent entity, which can be seen in the hilarious picture for those who are watching on YouTube. This is pretty much how witches are seen, and witches are cosplayed to no end. They are a staple of Halloween, with at least one person dressing up as a witch. And the witch look is very iconic. It's an ugly woman clad in black, often with a black cat, riding on a broomstick and cackling through, stealing children, causing mischief, the whole 9 yards. And so when it comes to the witches, they are very interestingly seen. There's two polar opposites to how they're seen. Some see them as malicious, malignant, horrible creatures who want to kill everything in their path, cursing others who dare look at them wrong, while others, especially nowadays in modern times, see them as misunderstood rebels who refuse to conform to society.
Oh, is this the... Hang on, I got that one. There, Archimage was nice enough to give me a huge amount of images. So, I'm gonna have real fun trying to update the YouTube video for this.
Yes, those are modern day witches, because despite what people claim, witches are not in any way a bygone thing. They are very present today in various forms. The only real difference between today and back in medieval times and further on was that they were hidden. Witchcraft was something you don't talk about. In fact, you were afraid that if anybody found out, you would probably be killed, which, well, there was no probably. You'd almost definitely be killed, but we'll get into that later. Nowadays, there's online chats, there's stores, there's conventions, there's even Witchfest
Oh, yeah.
in London, England, which London, England was well known for not being very witch friendly, even having a king who was a known witch hunter, and yet today they have Witchfest, which you could go be curious, find various different witch objects. You can talk to witches. You can buy wands, magic charms, all of them. Which, well, what do you guys think of that Witchfest? Because I only found out this thing existed. I was just like, okay. What do you all think of it?
I mean, have they found Hogwarts Academy yet?
Well, it is in London, so maybe.
I mean, can I mean, look, I don't want to be a witch, but I will be a wizard. So I mean, if we want to enroll me in Hogwarts Academy, I mean, I can shave and pretend I'm a late blue. I'm a early bloomer.
To be fair, you probably could get away with it.
I probably could. I do look young, so it's like, yo, wizard, Shadow Fox.
Zed, what about you? What do you think?
Oh no, I'm good.
No, you don't want to attend. You don't want to maybe purchase a wand.
Are you buying the plane ticket?
Uh, through positive thinking, you can manifest yourself.
Are we already getting to using witchcraft to try and make a ticket now? Are we
And
at that?
my question has been answered.
We're already at that level that we're already trying to look up spells to save money on plane fare.
Yes. So obviously, witchcraft has changed in the public light. Now, to be fair, while this community is present, even to this day, now becoming a recognized religion. Yes, Wiccan witchcraft is a recognized religion, and people have been buried under it. It was actually something to do with the military, where they got rights to be buried under that religion. I don't remember the exact story, but it is a recognized religion.
So,
And so, with modern day witchcraft, basically practices may differ, but mostly what witchcraft has become about is utilizing the natural and supernatural forces in the universe to make a positive influence on their lives, the practitioner lives, and others around them. Usually positive, which arguably could just be the power of positive thinking, which many people do argue
I
that it
mean,
probably is.
placebo effect, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, wasn't one of the most famous cases of the placebo effect where it was first kind of coined. Was a doctor who saw a patient who was cursed by a witch doctor, and he thought he was gonna die, and he thought so hard that he was gonna die, he actually did get sicker, and doctor had to play into his whole delusion to make him get better, essentially.
Actually, yes, mind is a powerful thing. So, positive thinking can do a lot. If you think where you are, a lot can do that. So, now there have been some discrepancies with the witchcraft power, and I have actually wondered if, um, especially because they talk about energies and controlling energies, which I've often wondered if there is actually an ability to control those with a little bit of scientific knowledge. But to be fair, if you guys are interested, I'll tell you this theory later. But I am not telling the theory on this podcast because there's a chance I could be right, and I'm sorry, I don't want to give a bunch of people who don't really know what they're doing that kind of knowledge, especially if I am right. So, if you guys are interested, remind me. I'll tell you about the theory, but I'm
I
not divulging it on this
I
podcast.
think Mitch, then you already told me. I'll just drop part of the word bio.
Yes.
Okay, yes, then yeah, you've told me about that.
Yeah. So, look, there's no proof I'm right on that, but if I am right, I don't want to give a lot of people who don't really understand it that kind of power. So I will not divulge that.
I
So
I'm
moving on.
thinking almost safe to say that even if you did divulge it here, they would not be able to configure it because I mean a lot of it that when if I recall when you told me about it and that was years ago, that was it was theoretical almost.
It is theoretical, but again, like I'm not putting it out there.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Now, however, the thing to focus on though is that witchcraft and subcultures like Wicca and everything else, they are harmless. Most practitioners are not going to hurt you. There's nothing bad going to happen if you're around any of these people. They're they're harmless. They're not like servants of the devil. I mean, there are servants of the devil out there. There is an entire culture of that, but we're not looking at them. But some points to be made about witches. Couple of points. One is that witches are not necessarily pagans. That was actually joined in later by the Catholic Church, which we'll get further into that. But believe it or not, there are such things as Christian witches and wizards, which, as a Christian, I do find a bit odd.
That's fine.
But
I find that as also a Christian, I find that a little bit oxymoronic right there that we have a Christian witch. But okay,
oh no, there's an entire community of Christian magic performers and
I don't
not
doubt that.
like street magic, like genuine witch magic things. Like yeah, no,
I
there's
do
a thing.
not doubt there is a community of it. I just find it a little bit oxymoronic that you the
No,
very
I agree.
that's like I mean, that's like we got a couple of satanic people in the Church of Christianity. I mean, look, they believe that there's a God. They just also, like the devil, think he's misunderstood. You know,
Like, okay, these two don't really seem to fit together. You know, it's like an atheist Christian or an atheist Jew. It's
I
just like
mean,
it doesn't fit.
I guess the church is getting really desperate on. I'm not I'm not trying to take a shot at witches. I'm just saying. I'm more taking a shot at the church now because I'm like, you guys tried to burn these people earlier in history, and you're trying to invite them now.
I know, right? This seems kind of odd. Like,
this is, I would not. If I was a witch, I'd be like, we've been tricked before. You told us before back during the 1800s. Just come on over. We'll talk this all out. Next thing I know, we're all being drowned and hanged and burnt alive. Nuh-uh, not this time.
I would agree with that, though. To be fair, most start out as Christians and then incorporate witchcraft in, which doesn't make it better, but
no, that
just
I
as a
understand.
point of-
It's the other way around that kind of get me.
Yeah, no, the other way around is weird too. But okay, so that's one of the things to keep in mind. That they're not necessarily pagan, though. The majority of them are pagans. Like that's how it is. Second of all, voodoo is a separate religion. Voodoo is not the same as witchcraft or Wicca. It is a separate religion, and while some of the practices are incorporated with it, it's not actually joined. This was kind of all lumped together in people's understanding of just anything that was a different culture.
And we should
So
also
voodoo,
throw in hoodoo as well.
yes, all of those are both separate, and we are not going to be looking directly at voodoo in this podcast. If we do, it'll be a later podcast where we devote more time and effort to it because voodoo is actually very fascinating.
And voodoo's also a religion where hoodoo is not, but it's the practice of essentially what would be magic. But
yes,
yeah,
so
a lot.
So yeah, those are some things to look at as we proceed forward in our look at witchcraft. So now another thing to look at is we should really look at modern day witchcraft because this is going to show just how much it has really been embedded in modern day society, our psyche, everything else. Because like it's it's a lot because believe it or not, people are still persecuted for witchcraft to this very day, especially in African countries. There is a woman named Helen something or another who is actually a very we
Helen
don't
Duncan.
no, not her.
Different one. Okay.
No, this is a different one. This is a woman who's still alive today. She practices in Africa, and she is actually being accused of several crimes for abuse to children because she claims that the children are witches and demon possessed to a point where she makes Kathy Bates' character in Misery look like a good nurse. Yeah, that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, she was actually supposed to speak where we live at one time, but the people denied it when they found out what kind of person she was.
Gee, I wonder why. Yeah.
I know. So, hey, well done on the USA for that. Now, for a real understanding of just how much, now it's not universal. There are some places that really look into the magic, and there's some places that don't. And there is such thing as black magic practitioners. Black magic is a thing. Now, black magic specifically is any type of magic or practitioner who uses incantations and ingredients and other things to harm their enemies or to harm someone else's enemies, which doesn't seem horrible, but the big problems come in ritualistic murders. That's where some of this black magic gets pretty bad because, well, as said, they will use ritualistic murders to try to cause harm to others, or try to wish harm onto others, or even to gain power in some way. And how exactly they believe to gain power is fascinating, but is also something I won't go into just because I find it creepy. And you know what? There's a lot of sickos out there, and they don't need this information. They just don't.
They got Google for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Google is the strongest magic of this world. I think we all can agree.
Yes, absolutely. I mean,
Although-
who knows who even that worked?
Although the Grand Wizard Mickey is trying his best to topple the Google Wizard from his throne, but I mean, we'll get into that another day.
Exactly, and Google has an infinite void, a place where no one can ever find it. Things that disappear and will never be found again. On page 2.
I actually do click on page 2 from time to time.
Most people don't know there's a page 2, let's be honest. And since we're about to get into some very heavy stuff with this, since we're still, and it's going to go into some more of the modern culture, let's look at a lighter bit of modern culture and play that Pokemon monster.
Oh,
Zed,
okay.
take it away.
Is that time? Wait. Let me get everything out. Let me.
All right.
He sounds so enthusiastic, doesn't he?
Well, I mean, he had a lot to choose from this time, so.
Yeah, which
Yes, 2
surprises
options
me.
entirely.
Well, I thought you said they had more than 2.
If you count more of the same line as one, then I guess I have 4.
Okay. Well,
I probably
we can
could find more with that, but for this first part, the one that we will be focusing on is going to be one of the more obvious ones and one of the more recent ones. It will be Hatterene. Waiting for the picture to pop up.
I got.
For those watching on YouTube,
There it is.
For those looking on YouTube,
I don't think I need to explain why this would fit for a witch.
I mean, honestly,
just-
it looks like a witch was attacked by a bunch of fairies and then fell into an ice cream maker and then was pushed out.
I will also say to anyone who's looking at the image, most of her body is made of her hair. That is the entire purpose of that. That is not a body. That is hair.
Okay, you just ruined ice cream for me, so thank you.
You're welcome. You still have chocolate. Deal with it.
Yeah, fair enough.
Although, if the parallels weren't enough, its shield entry does say that it is also known as the Forest Witch.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
They straight up call it a witch.
And Forest Witch, because witches are very much in tune with nature, and it's supposed to be about nature, and especially using nature and various ingredients and energies of nature to concoct their spells and everything else.
Yep.
And Hatterene is known. Hatterene is known for, I think, standing still like a tree until things wander in its territory, and then using it psychic energy to deal with it.
Okay. That's a good way to go for it.
Yeah.
So we can see it is in even our
There's also an
culture,
entry
though,
that says, beware of forests that show no signs of living creatures within. You've probably wandered into its territory.
Yeah, that's why I was just reading as well.
dang. So is she a good witch or a bad witch?
I mean,
Who's controlling it?
yeah, exactly. Is it a wild Hatterene?
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Well, damn. But actually, that's a good segue of good and bad, because we're actually going to look into a modern day example of black and light magic. Which, yeah, there is actually a little bit of a war going on with black and light magic in South Africa. If you can believe it, in South Africa, the battle between good magic and dark magic, light and black magic, is very much alive. In fact, it's not only alive, it is thriving. It is thriving in a, well, magic religion which is known as Muti. Moody religion is fascinating in many ways. Moody in itself means root, which probably sounds kind of strange. Well, I don't know. Does it sound strange that the name of this religion, Moody, means root? Yeah. Does that sound strange? Like, just a personal opinion.
Oh, not really.
No.
Okay, well, it does actually make sense. So the thing is, in Moody religion, light and dark are basically two sides of the same coin. What they do is they use natural ingredients. Like, they believe that roots and plants, and various other things, parts, rocks, different things have power. And their incantations and spells are meant to draw upon that power and use it in some way. So that's why it means root, because they literally use roots and other various things. Like there's a plant that after giving an incantation, it can help protect you from lightning, which okay.
I don't want to test that one.
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to either. But again, this is very prominent. In fact, in South Africa, they have an entire market that goes off about this, which is affectionately named the Moody Market. To be fair, while it's called the Moody Market, you can look this up as Moody Market on Google and find it. In South Africa, it's probably called something else, but to all of us, it's going to be known as the Moody Market, which those are just some of the ingredients that you can find there. So the Moody Market essentially sells all the ingredients, people buy them, and then they go to one of two different people. On the light side of things, those who are practitioners of light magic, which will use it to will use it to heal others, spiritual healing, and protection, are the Sangoma. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I probably butchered that name. I'm pronouncing it as I spell it, but the Sangoma is basically the light version of the witch doctor, the light version of these practitioners. They are healers, they're spiritual protectors. They will help you. You go to them with various ingredients, and they will pass incantations to help cure you of something, to protect you from others. And the protection is mostly from witch doctors, who, of course, represent the black magic section of this religion. Now, they also use incantations to achieve a desired goal. Not surprisingly, the witch doctors are meant to cause harm, to hurt others, and to do that. So basically, what you get in South Africa is people hiring witch doctors to curse people they don't like. The person finds out about it, so they hire the Sangoma to protect them from the witch doctor. The other person finds out, so they get the witch doctor to pass another spell on them that the Sangoma then needs to protect from. So what you end up is this weird kind of spiritual incantation tug of war between light and dark going on. So, or if you're more of a skeptic, a way to waste money on a bunch of herbs so you can pretend to curse and protect yourself. If you're a skeptic, not going to judge the Moody religion in any way, this is what's going on, though. What do you guys think about that?
I mean that in terms of African culture, that's kind of been going on for centuries now. That's kind of always been the case of um just you would have a malicious person who practiced dark magic and a good person who practiced magic, and the good person would be kind of a pillar of their community. They would be the closest thing a tribe will have to a doctor in their village,
Yeah,
because
that's
oftentimes,
what the Sangoma is.
exactly, most of the time they would go out, they would collect herbs and roots and what have you, and do herbal remedies to cure things. They would have chants and spells for healing or calming and things like that. But then you will also, on the French society, would have those witch doctors or evil almost like shaman like people who would be using their thing to curse. These would generally be like the outcast to the village. Maybe they got kicked out of the village, maybe they were never part of the village, maybe their parents was kicked out of the village and they were kicked out by association, what have you, but they would generally be outcasts. They would the only reason they would get tolerated is because people like to go to them to get the darkest spells, because they want to put a hex on their neighbors. And then it would be a matter of, well, I put a hex on you, and then I need to go to a Sangoma or a good witch to get taken off or to get protection. And then, well, the enemy guy go to the bad, well now I want to go to the bad witch to put a spell on you, and now the other guy have to go to this Sangoma, and is a huge back and forth. Um, this is not limited to just Africa. I've
No.
seen this firsthand in the states. Of yeah. You laugh,
No,
but
I believe you. I entirely
I
believe you.
straight up know someone who they had a curse put on them by, I believe they said a gypsy, and they decided to go to the equivalent of a Sangoma in the states to get a protection wall placed on them, and then they decided in that same night to go to the equivalent of a witch doctor to put a curse on the person who put a curse on them as revenge. So I've seen this happen firsthand. I know for a fact this is not just limited to Africa. I've seen this happen in the States now. So this still
no,
goes
and
on.
oh yeah, definitely. And on a side note, you can find a lot of people who give gypsy curses and gypsy protections in New York,
Yes.
which honestly doesn't surprise anyone. Zed, does that surprise you in any way?
Not in the slightest.
I mean, what is your take on this whole light dark incantation tug of war? Like, I know you probably wouldn't care about being hexed or blessed or anything else, but like, what's like just first impression? Because I feel like this is the first time you've heard about this.
I think if I saw this, I would just and put an analogy to someone flicking a light switch repeatedly and just go, "What the hell is happening?" That's
Actually,
it.
it's not bad. That's not a bad analogy. All right, so where was I going with this? Okay,
Although
so
I would also
go ahead.
then grab the popcorn to watch the show.
I figured that's what a lot of people do. Now, you're probably wondering, so based on this thing, this in tug of war, like, especially if you don't really believe in curses, this doesn't seem like a big deal, right? I mean, this is just basically, like, if you don't believe in this stuff, this is just all nonsense. You basically are wasting money for a bunch of prayers and evil or well-meaning thoughts, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, to the South Africans especially, this is not in any way a small matter. In fact, they actually have an entire crime unit based around it, which they actually uninspiredly call the Occult Crime Unit, which is meant to hunt down some of the dark, moody practitioners. Now, you're probably wondering why, considering this is just basically a tug of war. Well, this goes back to what Moody believes. As I said, they believe that roots and objects hold power, and the rituals they perform is in order to control that power to their influence. The issue comes with Dark Moody. Dark Moody, in particular, what it believes holds power, and the ingredients, the things that hold the most power in Dark Moody, are human body parts, such as hearts, head, and even fingers. These morbid talismans have even more power if they are taken from the victim while the victim is in extreme pain and experiencing a lot of fear. Because, of course. And of and that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that people have murdered people in order to get these talismans, and the best, the absolute greatest talismans that come from human body parts. Can you guess what?
I'm gonna say
That
below the belt.
no,
Okay. Thank goodness.
no, believe it or not. I mean, probably yes, but that's not the worst part.
Okay.
Is the best parts come from children.
Oh, that
Children
makes
are the
sense.
best for
Their
it.
vitality, their youth. That's why.
Yep, and especially their innocence. Putting that much innocence in pain and torture creates very strong talismans for this dark form of moody magic. Which this is no joke. It happened again. They established in South Africa an entire police force to capture this and still deal with it to this day. And it has gone so far as to even reach places like London. Like Shadow R. Fox mentioned, he saw cases of stuff like this happen in the States. The murders actually happened as far as London, which were called, yeah, the ritual murders in London. Some of these were moody murders, which were as bad as they sound. People were killed in order to start these bizarre rituals. Which, yeah, not a pleasant time. You can find you can find more information on these horrific murders on various videos of YouTube. They are as bad as you think, and that is why dark moody is so dangerous, and that is why some people seeing witchcraft can be dangerous as it is, because those who want to harm people using witchcraft, they do exist. They absolutely 100% exist, and they are dangerous. Now, to be fair, the number of practitioners of harmless Wicca and light magic far exceed and outnumber those who use black magic, and thank goodness for that.
To be
But
fair, most of the black magic, the people who practice those type of ritualistic murder type incantations, I find they are more oriented towards developing countries. You're less likely to see them in a first world nation. Like that's why the London the London
attacks.
murders and everything, and I think they even happened in the States on a smaller scale, which was like a 1 or 2 person. Because I think the
Yes.
one in London was like 5 or 6 or 7. Like I remember they found
It
multiple
wasn't
bodies.
many. No, like you said, in lesser developed countries, this is more common. In more first world countries, this is not as common. Like I said, that's why this sticks out because it is very rare. And well, thank goodness for that.
Yeah, because most
Uh,
practitioners of this is of the Sanguma type effect of the Wiccan effect of just natural herbs and stuff to remedies, natural folk remedies and incantations and incantation that don't require actual living human body parts to complete the incantation type stuff.
yeah, they don't require screaming and pain or murder.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Sangomas do actually practice ritualistic killing, but they only ever do it of animals, and it is specifically not meant to be painful.
Yes, and to add on to that, specific because I remember that I've looked up that before. Of they actually do get a license in the states specifically to have animals to sacrifice for their religion, and usually is a well, as fast as a death can be by slitting the throat or something of the animal or beheading the animal. So they're not
Yes.
torturing the animal for hours and then, killing it after a slow, painful death. They usually, slit its throat and make it a fast death for it.
Yes. On a side note of interest, this really doesn't go into the witch thing very much, but I found it personally interesting. Is that many of these animalistic rituals, these killing rituals, are actually very close to how kosher foods are supposed to be prepared, which I just find interesting. But that's neither here nor there. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video.
Yeah, because I
Um,
don't know how kosher food is made. That
Yeah, it is surprising. It is eerily close, but again, we can look at that into another video sometime about migrational patterns and how cultures and rituals may have, crossed over. But again, no, a video for another day. So basically, what we're seeing from this is that the witch era is not so bygone as we think. It's still fairly present. And another big case is that in England, for instance, which again now hosts a witch fest, but in England they actually passed a Witchcraft Act in 1735, which was called the Witchcraft Act of 1735. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, this was just a way for London, England to like start murdering a whole bunch of witches indiscriminately. But believe it or not, this act actually greatly reduced the number of executions and witch trials that happened in London. Like it greatly reduced it. And you're probably wondering, well, wait, how does that work? The way that worked is because according to the Witchcraft Act, which I believe they probably did to just appease the people, you could only be condemned and put to death for being a witch by proclaiming you had that kind of power. You had to proclaim that you were a witch. You had to proclaim that you had that kind of power. So if someone accused you of being a witch, all you had to do to get out of it was say, no, I'm not, and you were good. So it actually saved a lot of people.
if only the Salem witch trial had that.
Yes, actually.
It's like that person's a witch. No, I'm not. Well, that's good enough for me. Hey,
Yes, actually.
did that work for criminal offenses? That guy
No.
murdered 5 people and stole a car. No, I didn't. Well, that works for me. Okay, bye.
No, it was
Sir,
not
he
used
said
for
he
criminals.
did not do it. Okay, I take his. He said. I mean, he didn't even. He looked me in the eye and said he didn't do it.
Okay, so the Chief Wiggum strategy from The Simpsons.
Exactly.
But to be fair, while this greatly reduced them, they did still happen. Don't get it wrong. They definitely happened, and actually, the last person to die thanks to this act was actually a woman named Helen Duncan, who was sentenced to death by this act all the way in 1944. She is officially the last person to have been killed because she proclaimed witchcraft, the ability to use witchcraft. She was a medium and she proclaimed that she had the ability to use witchcraft, and under the law, she was put to death. So,
Again,
yeah. So it wasn't perfect.
I want to stress, this was 1944. This was still towards the end of World War II. What was he doing to make her stand out so much? Because I remember there was a time in London that there was a mass murderer going around killing people in bunkers during the bombing of London by the Germans, and they didn't even have the manpower to find the murderer for the longest time. And yet they have a time to hunt down this witch.
Well, maybe we'll
Serial killer? Witchcraft. Look, we already got Nazis. We don't need witches as well. Go get this person.
I mean, it seems like it. But yeah, again, that's how prominent that this fear of witches really was, to like it going all the way back to 1944, which was seen as a more civilized time, despite the racism and everything else. But again, that shows just how prominent that witches have been in society, and especially how even with the more harmless versions, there's still this element of fear to it. And what we're really going to be looking at, what we're going to focus on through the rest of the video, is what that element of fear comes from. Why are they feared? So the best way to start out with the witch is to first really understand their appearance. The modern day witch, their appearance is iconic. They're seen as this cackling, ugly crone, clad all in black, brewing over a cauldron. Double, double toil and trouble. Cauldron burn, fire bubble. Cauldron bubble. I screwed that up. Never mind. Now, that comes from specifically William Shakespeare's Macbeth. That is actually the most prominent image of the modern day witch. It comes from Macbeth because that was really where it was seen as this, horrible harbinger of evil that would come out just to cause mischief. Because in the play, they cause Macbeth trouble. They tempt him with various things that he could be king, and it's argued throughout the book whether or not Macbeth would have done all the things he did if the witches had not tempted him in the first place. Now, okay, to be perfectly fair, Macbeth is based on a real character, and he apparently had a lot more legitimacy to the throne than Shakespeare gave him, but we're not here to discuss Shakespeare plays because I'm pretty sure it would bore people to death. Because I don't know many people who actually like listening to Shakespeare plays that much here in America. I mean, I think I'm one of the few people who will listen to it, and there's only like 2 plays I like. Would you guys concur with that?
I think Shakespeare was a witch because clearly he had a spell in his plays that can make you fall asleep.
Really?
The sad thing is I can't argue with that statement.
Where's the lie, Archimage? Where's the lie?
Okay, I can't actually come up with any type of proof of a lie of that, but
I mean, look, I saw the Doctor Who episode with Shakespeare. Witch. For those who actually seen that Doctor Who episode, if not, look
it's a good episode.
Yeah, it was
it's a good
David
episode.
Tennant.
You'll have fun.
David Tennant's the Doctor in that one. Very good one.
Yeah, it's a great episode. It's a lot of fun. Where was I going with that?
Shakespeare.
So, yeah, they were seen as symbols of evil. So the real question is, why did Shakespeare depict them of that? Now, so we were looking at Shakespeare's influence of his witches. Now, Shakespeare lived from 1564 to 1616, I believe. And while not at the height of the witch trials, they did still occur. They happened less in his time, but they did still definitely happen. Now, while there's no evidence that Shakespeare ever actually attended a witch trial, there's no way that he didn't at least hear about it in some way. So really, his depiction of the witch was probably a mirror of what society considered witch and what they believed they looked like. So let's take this apart piece by piece. First of all, why are they wearing black? Why are they ugly? And also, why are they female? Now, despite what many people think, not all who were accused of witchcraft were women. That's not the case. In fact, in the East, more men were accused of being witches than women were. Now, in the West, more women were accused. That's just how it is. But the fact is, it wasn't just women, but women were predominant in Western culture. Now, why is this? There's a lot of reasons, and sexism is definitely one of them. There's no doubt. And that can be prominently seen by one of England's most famous witch hunters, believe it or not, King James IV, who was always fascinated with witchcraft to the point where it stopped being a fascination and turned more into an obsession. He was basically almost frickin' Van Helsing at one point. He was going after ghouls, monsters, and everything else to the point where he actually wrote a book on it called Demonology. Now, his fascination with witchcraft was said to have started with a woman named Agnes Sampson. Now, according to the story, what happened was that a storm occurred that was bringing over his soon-to-be bride. And King James, for whatever reason, was convinced that the storm was created by witches, that it was witches plotting to kill him. And he interviewed and tortured several people to try to get to the truth. Now, according to the stories, Agnes Sampson was the one that he focused on because when he asked her a question, she not only admitted to creating the storm, but she proved it by telling the king what he had whispered to his bride when they had first met. At least this is the claim. So, did that actually happen? Who knows? It's lost to history. Why would he do this? Again, who knows? Maybe as a scapegoat. Maybe he was delusional. Maybe his obsession took to a tour. Maybe she was being tortured and was just desperately trying to, stop being tortured. Maybe he just wanted the public to think there were witches. It's hard to say why he exactly did it. Maybe we'll take a more in-depth look into it.
Here's
But
the real question: what did
shoot.
he say to his bride?
Yeah, that's something we don't know.
Oh my goodness, that's a tease. That's like, I mean, here's the real question: was it something like typical, like "I love you" or something that would?
Look, we really don't know. It's not written what
Or
he
was
said.
it something so pure like the lottery numbers are 5, 7, 9, 14?
For all we know, he whispered to his wife, "One day Steve Jobs will create Apple."
That would make
Okay,
him
we
the
have
greatest
no
witch of all
idea.
time.
Yes, we have no idea what the hell he whispered. Don't know what she said. We just know the end result. Now, again, the sexism part can be seen in the Book of Demonology. The reason King James cited that women, while he said that both men and women could be affected by it, he said women were more likely to be affected by it because women were morally frail. That they were more susceptible to the gifts and the temptations of demons and spooks, to the temptation of black magic, to the power that it could give them, because they didn't have the strength to be able to stand against it like men could. It's like, okay. And he cited the story of Eve being tempted by the serpent as proof of it, which back then, of course, being a very Christian country, which I think, yeah, England still is to this day, that was almost, case proof. And also being the king didn't hurt his ability to say that either. So that's where a lot of it, why they're mostly women, came from. Is because of that. Now, it's not only the book. There is more to it than just that. One thing is, you'll notice I mentioned that they were often elderly women. Why elderly women? Now, the reason that it's mostly elderly women is actually because elderly women were able to have more experience and have cures for things. Like they would be able to help other women with special remedies and special cures and everything else. Why? Because they've been through stuff. They knew what worked. They could help women with pregnancy because they had been through it and they knew what would help them. They would often take care of others, and these were kind of seen as magical powers. And so elderly women were kind of this staple. Now, why exactly would they start looking to elderly women as witches who were just helping people? We'll get into that a little later on. But the simplest version of this are the ugliness and the black cloak. Those are both symbolic. For instance, a witch is ugly because beauty is seen as a gift from God. You know, if you were beautiful, you were also kind and you were morally good, which yeah, I'm calling BS on that crap.
Wait a minute. I missed that Bible verse where God said, I hate the Uggies. Get rid. I missed that Bible, and those alone said, may the beautiful inherit the world, while the uglies inherit hell.
Yeah, because anybody who's read Snow White knows that beauty doesn't always translate to kind or good. So that's some BS. But again, that was public perception. And the black is also the most obvious symbolism. Black is the opposite of white, clad with evil. That's it. Very basic. But back to the elderly women. So the elderly women, the reason they were focused on is actually going back to a group of healers that were known as the wise men. Now, to be fair, the wise women were called various things, but most of them were known as the wise women. And what they basically were is that they were holy women. They were going around trying to help and heal others. They had, as I said, they were mostly elderly women because they'd been through this. They had spells. They had ways to help, and they went around blessing houses. They went around curing ailments, things like that. And so in reality, they were more like modern day nurses and doctors. While they did have incantations where they'd sit around in a circle and pray, most of them were just that. They weren't spells, they were prayers. They were asking for help. And that's where some of the rituals came from, is just these prayers that were misinterpreted later on, which is actually interesting, which we'll get to in just a second. But like, what do you think of this symbolism so far, or even King James?
Well, I mean, one, the fact that King James was a king witch hunter, and I'm sorry, with the pantaloons and no. See, what King James needed to look like, and
Oh God.
oh yes. See, when you said witch hunter king, I instantly thought of this, which, if you can't see it, is Warhammer Fantasy Witch Hunter, which is something you would probably see out of a D&D, someone make a witch hunter clad in armor, wear a blade and a torch, and only thing missing, put a crown instead of his hat. That's why I think of as a witch hunter king, not Pantaloon McGee over here.
Yeah, clearly.
How many witches did he actually kill with a blade?
Who?
King James.
I don't think any. He was the king.
That's a shit king. Well, that's a shit king and a shit witch hunter at that point.
I said he wrote a book, remember?
Oh, good. Did he beat any to death with the book?
No, he didn't beat any to death with the book.
What type of witch hunter is he?
I don't even know where to go with that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, like
you say he's a witch hunter king. So far I'm looking at his witch body count and it seemed very low. He just seemed a sexy king to me.
Now, to be fair, as far as witch hunters go, the king was actually a decent one, because witch hunters were actually really crappy people.
I mean, this king didn't sound like a good guy to me.
No, in comparison, believe it or not, King James actually was not that bad. For instance, his book actually talks more about, he writes it more as a conversation, which he goes into what to look for for witchcraft and magic, trying to kind of hone down the actual reason instead of just blatantly accusing anyone you don't like. So he was actually trying to give reasons and everything else. So, as far as Witch Hunter goes, believe it or not, King James IV was actually one of the better ones, as he actually tried to bring a logic to it.
See, that right there, that's his problem. He tried to bring logic to witch hunts. Okay, those two things do not. That's like oil and water. Logic and witch hunts. Those are not two things that go hand in hand together.
Okay, yes, but he tried. Okay, at the point, this was logical at the time.
I got you there, Alchemist. Just like, come on, witch hunt and logic. That's what. Come on, you can choose one or the other.
Okay, fair enough, but in the sense it was okay. I'm getting nowhere with this. Like, you're right. I can't defend this one. But okay, well, if still of the witch hunters, he was actually one of the better ones. And for proof of that, you only need to look at a witch hunter, like the witch hunter general, Matthew Hopkins.
Hang on.
Matthew Hopkins was an opportunistic, egotistical, malicious, murdering con man. That's who he was.
So the real witch hunter stands up today now. Now we got the real one. That looked closer.
Actually, yes.
That looked closer to the Warhammer now.
Yes, in fact, it was probably what they based it on.
No, it was what they based it off of.
Matthew Hopkins was a shit. He really was. There's no nice way to put it. He went around from town to town. I think he appointed himself the Witchfinder General. I don't think that was an official title. But he went around and he did what Witchfinders do. He goes around, he finds someone who's a little bit odd, a little bit strange, accuses them of being a witch, works up the whole town into thinking they're a witch, and then demands payment for the town, tricking the town into becoming murderers, killing whoever this person was, normally a woman, and of course anyone who dared try to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't listen to this random-ass stranger who's suddenly telling us to kill someone we've known for years on end. What? You're a witch too! Or you've been possessed, in which case they would find themselves very quickly in hot water as well. Sometimes literally. So, is that what you prefer?
The true witch hunter king has arrived.
Well, yes, he was a general, so he actually was high up. The witch hunter general. The an absolute crappy person.
I'm sorry, but that's what I think of when I think of witch hunters and pretty much when I think of witch hunters, I think of people like Matthew Hopkins because they are the iconic go-to for a witch hunter, for just being that crazy guy of going, what's that? You have a mole on your nose? Witchcraft! What's that? A dog don't piss on your yard? Witchcraft! What's that? Do you smell actually good? Witchcraft! I mean, that's how it worked though with him. It was literally he walks into an area. You smell good. That sound like witches to me.
No, that's actually exactly right. Which you can actually. It was even had a movie about him, which was played by Vincent Price. Not one of the better films. It's mildly entertaining, but it's fun to watch Vincent Price, but it's not a particularly good film. I think Hammer Horror Films probably did it. I think, but again, these witchfinders were basically just opportunistic murderers who gained money by playing on people's fears of anything different, which in reality, it's not that much different from today. For any of those, let's be honest, for any of those of you listening going, oh, well, I'd never be fooled by such a thing. Yeah, look how the whole world reacted to COVID and get off your high horse.
We have new witch hunters now. They are called the people on Facebook and Twitter and X and TikTok and Instagram and any social media. Those are the new witch hunters of the day. Anyone who cancels someone is a witch hunter at this point.
Exactly. So I'm sorry to all of you. Get off your high horse.
Oh man, the next time someone say they're canceling something, I'm gonna go witchcraft. Just in all caps, and I'm gonna get like a one of those digital ASCII art of just the font art where someone used a bunch of letters to draw a picture, and I'm gonna have a picture of someone pointing at someone while typing witches.
Okay, if this starts a hashtag because of this segment, I'm
Hashtag
blaming
heresy.
you. I am blaming you.
Hashtag heresy is what we'll call it. Oh, hashtag witchcraft. All caps, exclamation marks.
Okay, Zed, would you like to be a witch hunter? Like, would you? What do you think of this individual? A sane opinion, please.
Wait, we're gonna do this. Hang on, let me actually give Zed a side by side because I don't know when he see this. I mean, Zed, wouldn't you want to be the witch hunter on the left?
I mean, yes, I would want to be the one on the left, but the one on the right. Honestly, he just looks like an angry Amish guy. And I don't think I'd ever listen to one of those. No offense to the Amish, but I just
He was a
wouldn't.
Puritan. That's basically what he was.
All right.
And Zed, why are you saying no offense to the Amish? The Amish don't believe in technology. They're never going to see this.
Well, actually,
fine, but...
we do know that they do let their kids go and have a technological bend.
Yes, because when you're a teenager and you've been led into the real world where you're now allowed to party, drink, and everything else, the first thing you're going to do is watch a podcast about monsters.
I mean, some of those Amish people, when those kids get out with the technology, they do whatever they want.
Yes, and I'm sure the first thing they're going to do with a laptop is look up a podcast about monsters.
I mean, they'll look up something on the laptop. I'm just throwing that out.
No, but it's not going to be our podcast.
Got you all, Commish. I need to put some porn tags on out.
Oh, for God's That was not my point!
But it's an excellent point you made nonetheless.
Oh, God.
That'll give us the views right there.
Sadly, yes, it would. And then a lot of angry disappointment afterwards. Or maybe not. You know what? Maybe so. Okay, we're going down a very dark path. Let's pull out. Okay, that was the wrong one.
Yeah, clearly one of my tags for this YouTube video is going to be hot, sexy witches. There we go.
Is this my fault, Zed? Is this one on me?
Yeah, completely.
Okay, great. Okay, my bad. Okay, so Vincent Price movie. Let's try to steer this to any other thing other than how to be a effective murdering witch hunter.
I never said effective. I just said be a decent witch hunter, and by that I mean have no logic, be completely irrational, quick to anger, quick to misjudge, and if you see anything that defy what your viewpoint is on life, you call that thing heresy and you chase it down and you beat it to death. Because that's what it means to be a witch hunter.
I mean, he's not wrong.
That's not wrong.
He's not wrong. That's actually very, very true.
It's scary how quickly Shadow Fox can identify what a good witch hunter would look like.
Yeah, just think of the most horrible things possible. So, yeah, no, that's actually absolutely correct. Okay, so moving on, though, here's the big thing. Why did these people, as I say, go after older women? Why did they go after these people why did they basically target these women who were able to heal others, who were basically like almost doctors of their community? They went about helping others. They were able to cure ailments because they'd been around long enough. So in fact, why go after these wise women who were traveling nurses? I mean, it doesn't really make much sense. They weren't hurting anybody. There's no evidence they were hurting anybody. So why did they? In fact, for like thousands of years, they seemed perfectly content with them everywhere. So what really changed? Why was it that they started becoming persecuted? The answer probably is that they were pagans. because the real persecution of witches really started getting up with the early rise of the Christian church and when they were going on their conversion campaign. Now, part of this conversion campaign was basically to demonize the pagan religion, the pagan gods, and in turn to demonize pagans as well. Which, believe it or not, was actually at the time when they first started far more dangerous for the Christians than it was for the witches. Especially considering they started in ancient Rome, where demonizing the Roman gods, which some of their emperors were gods, basically demonizing the emperors, the Christians were in constant threat. But when they started to grow and actually become a power force, especially when Rome adopted the Christian religion, that changed. And so now we're going to have to look at why exactly they turned on the witches. And that will actually be a good place to start for part 2 of Mythical Monster Investigations Look into Witches. So, with that, I think it's a good place to stop. Is there anything else you want to add as far as us beginning to talk about the Catholic Church and its association and relation to the creation of the modern day witch mythos?
All I can think is, the church. It always go back to the church.
It always does. It always does.
I'm just thinking. I think the Catholic Church is in need of some new witch hunters. Clearly,
They've been slacking lately. That's your point.
Look, they got rid of the Inquisition, so clearly they need someone else to. I mean, and the Jehovah Witnesses, no one's afraid of them. But I mean, a witch hunter come knocking on your door. Have you heard the good word of our Lord Savior Jesus Christ? No, that sounds like witchcraft to me.
I mean, yeah, that probably would be more effective.
Have you prayed 5 times a day? No, that sounds like witchcraft to me. And you're about to start praying outside on your yard before we burn your house down.
I think the word for that wouldn't be witch hunter, but domestic terrorist.
I mean, tomato. Spread the good book.
Zed, do you have a sane opinion about all this, or anything you'd like to add?
Did you just ask me if I have a sane opinion about witches?
Yes. Yes, I did. What, is that not sensible? I mean, you were the one who found a Pokemon that looks like a witch mixed with an ice cream cone.
An ice
You
cream
know,
cone? Your mind doesn't jump to cotton candy. My mind goes to cotton candy.
actually, I'm thinking a little bit of the Neapolitan ice cream, except with blue instead of the chocolate.
I was about to say, where the fuck is the blue? Who's in a Neapolitan?
Yeah. But yeah, a little bit of cotton candy. Just, I don't know. I've never seen white cotton candy before.
It's just colorless cotton candy. It's just normal sugar.
It's sugar. That's all it is.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, honestly, it looks more like she was thrown up on by a pixie.
I mean, she is part fairy type, so it makes sense.
Okay, fine. Fairies threw up on her. Feel better?
I'm just saying that. No, I'm saying Pokemon keep the same color scheme with their fairy type, which is light colors of pink, light blue, white.
So they're all cotton candy colors.
Pretty much.
Well, good to know they're consistent. So yes, you found the witch Pokemon. Anything you want to add?
No, not really.
All right, then I think that's what's up.
Oh, next time we'll have the bad witch Pokemon.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun. Especially since we're gonna be talking about all the bad things that happen to witches. It's gonna be a hoot and gonna be a very uplifting and positive video.
I'm gonna have to get on my witch hunter robes and get ready for that one.
Okay, see, I'm not sure you're joking. In fact, I don't think you're joking. Do you have witch hunter robes?
I can neither confirm or deny. I'm just gonna say a lot of my neighbors are gonna hear the good word, or they're gonna hear a bunch of heresy and witchcraft yelled at them.
So a typical day.
Yes.
Okay. With that, I hope you all enjoyed it, and please join us for part 2 where we look further into this.
Okay, see y'all then.
See ya.